G'day folks. Well, over the years we have filmed hundreds of incredibly talented people across the world. Many of these artists have gone on to produce their own videos as well. We hope you enjoy this great lesson from one of our Colour in Your Life artists.
Morning and welcome to my studio. Today I'm going to be showing you how I paint over an old painting that I'm tired of. So let's get on with it. So this work was actually a sea scene. You can see here that I've got some waves. There was sky and clouds up there. There weren't any trees. I've painted the trees in. I've painted a bit of a landscape in. This is one of my kind of deconstructed landscape stroke still life, which I'm rather fond of at the moment. And I have put a teapot in the middle. So I've actually I painted that yesterday evening and kind of ran out of time, but we can work on this over time. It doesn't, paintings don't have to be done overnight. They can just be something, especially in this time when we're all kind of at home and looking for things to do. It's fun to do things slowly. You might have heard of the whole idea of slow art, where you don't actually kind of race into things and do them. And this is an opportunity for us to re-find ourselves, to look at life as it used to be, a slower, gentler, perhaps more thoughtful way of life. Anyway, I intend to embrace what I can of this new time. What I'm using here is a mixture of Payne's Grey and Prussian Blue, and white. So it's a very limited palette at the moment. All I'm doing is just getting the shapes. I'm not that fussed about how it's looking at this stage. Let's just get some shapes into place. And a few shadows, just so that I've got the idea of what it is that I'm trying to do. So now I've actually drawn here a pot, a Chinese pot, and I'm just going to play with that a bit. I just like playing with things. Needs whites. I want to cover up. Although I contemplated leaving the sea scene there into the pot, but I decided in the end that it would look a bit odd. So even though some of my paintings are a bit odd anyway, because I just like playing around. So you can see the light's sort of coming from this direction, so I'm going to put a bit more shadow here on this side of the pot. I don't think my painting is done in any way following rules. I just paint. I always tell my students that I don't have rules. Just paint and play with it. I do have a rough idea how it's going to be in the end, but I'm actually not somebody who's too fussed about what's correct and what's not correct. Really, I just want to find out what's in our creative souls. It's all a very personal expression, art anyway. There. That might be enough for now, because I just wanted to get a little bit of canvas covered. Here I am in my studio with the same painting I was working on yesterday, and I have done a little bit of work. You might remember that there was a pot that was sort of only just there. Well, I've now put some design into it. I often use other elements in my paintings, so this is from a book I have and you can see that I'm actually using a photograph as my resource material. I don't always have the exact right piece of still life that I need, so I often go to photographs and other things. So now what I want to do is put in some different colours. Now I've actually got on my palette at the moment ultramarine blue, cadmium red medium, cadmium yellow medium, and titanium white. So there's a bit of that purpley, delightful purpley blue that comes with ultramarine that I'm going to pop into some of these elements that I've just mapped out really. I often work like this, mapping out a bit of something and then filling it in a very loose style. My style is pretty happy-go-lucky really. Now I can see from my resource that there's a bit of lovely bit of purpley blue just in this area, so we'll just pop that in there. And down the bottom here where I used Prussian blue to just map that out, and now I'm going to put a bit of ultramarine in there. It's a richer, more purpley blue. Believe it or not, this will gradually come together, even though it's looking pretty messy at the moment. So we'll just go across here. You can always finesse. That's the beauty of painting with acrylic, because you don't have to be perfect. You can paint over and you can use other colours to kind of make things happen. And sometimes if you've got an active palette like this, where there are a few different colours on it, you can just allow things to happen sometimes, and sometimes you get a happy accident. I mean, it may be, I know my students often go, I made a mistake, I didn't want that to be there. But you know what? Sometimes when you've made a mistake, it actually turns out to be really good in the end. So I learned from one of my teachers, just leave it there for the time being. You might find that it works. Now, we need a bit of colour in this. It's getting a bit dull. So let's put some nice bright oranges in here. Something to lift the spirits, especially on this day where we're going into a fairly lockdown sort of situation in Australia. I'm of an age where I'm supposed to be reasonably isolated, so it's pretty nice for me. I can just paint and talk to you people. So in my resource there's a bit of a person here wearing some red. Let's pop that in. Doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to look exactly like a human being. I just want to get some of those colours in, and then take a good hard look at it later and see what I'm actually dealing with. You can see that I'm pretty slapdash. Now there's a bit up here too, just on the top of that pot. Right, so that's the starting point. Now I'm going to go to the yellow, the cadmium yellow medium. Mix it. I tend to mix things on the sort of on the brush, not entirely on the palette, because I like that sort of mixture that occurs where you don't get, an absolutely pure colour. You get a kind of exciting mixture happening. So you can see that this is, in some places it's sort of yellow, and in some places it's more orangey. can see there's a bit of colour happening. That's exciting. Do love colour. Now, there's something's got to go in there eventually. We'll do that in a while. And there's a bit of orange around here. A bit of red. Okay. So, how's that looking? It's brighter than it was, isn't it? It's a bit brighter, a bit more exciting. I think we're going to need something up here too. And over here. And I'm just going to mix the ultramarine with the titanium white to get that lovely fresh. That's a really lovely fresh blue, a bit like the sky. And if we put it down here on either side of this sort of palm tree effect. Okay, for now I'm going to stop and we'll pick it up again maybe tomorrow or the next day. Thanks very much for your time. Hi, Christine back again with my painting that I've been doing, and I'm just gradually working through it. It's a still life with a landscape, and I had a session yesterday where I was working on this Chinese vase, this Chinese pot, and I said, I thought it might be a bit modern, but now I've looked it up, I've checked it out. This is my resource material in this beautiful book I have, and it actually says that it's from the Qing, Q-I-N-G, dynasty, 1644 to 1661, or from the Kangxi Qing dynasty, which went up until 1722, so I was completely wrong. Anyway, we live and learn. So today I have actually drawn in, you probably can't see it, I've drawn in some still life, some flowers and some leaves, excuse me, that I've just collected from the garden because it's autumn here in Australia, and there are not a lot of flowers, but there are some quite nice bright ones. So I need to brighten up this area. I want to put lots of colour and life into this section. So that's what I'm going to start to do today. And I've got a really active palette. Active palette meaning there's a lot of colour in it. Not a limited or passive palette where it's just you know, a couple of colours that you're limiting yourself to. So what have I got on my palette today? I've got Australian olive green, I've got a magenta, quinacridone violet, one of my favourites again, cadmium red medium, titanium white, dioxazine purple, and not to forget, Prussian blue. So, haven't actually got any yellow in there at the moment, but that will come. In fact, I did put yellow on the palette, and we've got some cadmium yellow hue. So, let's get to work. I actually like these Neath brushes with the straight edge. I've got a 6 and I've got an 8. So I'm just going to start with a bigger one. I'm just going to chuck in some colour. So I've got geraniums, and I've got geraniums up here. I hope I'm not in your way there. Just throw in some paint. This is a structure paint. It's quite impasto, and it's style. That's my style too. There's a bit more of this over here. You can probably see that I also put in a little bit more colour in the background last night after I left you. It'll need a lot of work. It's not going to just be as is right now. Now, I've actually got some fruit just here, kumquat. For some reason I think a kumquat goes well with Chinese. Maybe they are originally a Chinese fruit. I don't actually know. I thought I had another one of those. There's one over here somewhere. Oh, we'll just put him in. Can be sorted out later. Now, there's some pink geranium too, so that's where the quinacridone, the magenta, the quinacridone violet comes in. So mix that with white and you get this really vibrant pink. So there's a geranium, a really rather spectacular geranium here. Needs a bit more yellow in it, I think. Perhaps he needs a little bit of dioxazine violet. Bring out a bit of contrast. See, I'm not too worried about the old background now. I mean, the background will probably change quite a bit because that's the way I work. I get colour down and then I kind of layer it up lots. Let's get a bit more contrast in there. See, the background is coming through quite nicely with its bit of contrast. Yeah, looking vaguely like the flower of a geranium. Now, we've actually got leaves. We've got a whole lot of leaves, so let's get some green in there. So this is the olive green. And these big leaves that I'm going to paint in are actually, they're guava leaves. I've got a big guava, well, a couple of guava trees in the garden. And they have these really spectacular leaves with wonderful veins in them. I'm very happy to incorporate them into a still life. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, look at that beautiful creamy paint. Don't you think that looks just divine? Now we're getting somewhere. Let's put a bit of white in this so that we get a really much yellower leaf. This was on the kumquat. Some of the leaves on a kumquat are really quite yellow. It probably means they've got some sort of vitamin deficiency, but still, it looks nice. Put a bit more green into that. There we go. Starting to get interesting, I think it is. Now, let's do something with some stalks, some lines. Here we need a bit more light again. Now the beauty here, you can see that the chalk is quite obvious, but it's not going to matter because I can wipe that away with a wet rag. It's no big deal at all.